Kirby has to be one of my personal favorite video game franchises. The locations, the characters, the gameplay designs, everything comes together to make a series that is impossible to hate. Most people are pretty aware of Kirby today, but when you go back to the genesis of the series, you can see that he had humble beginnings. Kirby's Dream Land was created by HAL's very own Masahiro Sakurai, and went on to spawn numerous sequels in a behemoth of a franchise. Kirby's design wasn't actually planned before the box art was finalized, so he appears on the box as white. Miyamoto and Sakurai were feuding over what color he should be, either yellow or pink. Sakurai won out, and Kirby's been a puffball of color ever since. Fun fact, Kirby was designed by Sakurai when he was only 16. Imagine if you made a worldwide gaming icon at the age of 16. I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, well, I still have a year. Let's just get into the game. On a distant planet named Popstar, a land called Dreamland is populated by the Jolly Dreamlanders. But one day, something goes amiss. The greedy King Dedede has stolen all the food and sparkling stars in Dreamland, and a young hero named Kirby steps up to the plate to get back at Dedede. Yes, I am explaining the plot of this game, and not an episode of Dora the Explorer. It's basic, but it's something. It also makes sense, unlike mushrooms being turned into horsehair plants, whatever those are. Kirby's Dream Land has 4 levels. Yes, it's very short. You can beat this game in 30 minutes easily. Every level has a basic structure. Platform your way through spawns of enemies until reaching the mini-boss, and then finally the big boss, before moving on to the next stage. After defeating every boss, a sparkling star drops in. Once Kirby collects it, well, it speaks for itself. Every game in the Kirby franchise features this dance, and I especially love it in this game for featuring a bunch of Kirby's random sprites. The levels are Green Greens, Castle Lololo, Float Islands, Bubbly Clouds, and Mount Dedede. Yes, that is 5, but Mount Dedede hardly counts, but I'll get to it later. If you're savvy with the Kirby franchise, then you'll know that the first letter of every world spells certain phrases in Kirby games. In this game, that phrase is While the levels themselves are about what you'd expect, the music that accompanies them is bubbly, floaty, and greeny. Green Greens is here, and yes, the song is good, and no, I haven't forgotten the melody. We'll see in this soon after I cover the rest of the Kirby games, but literally all of them feature the Green Greens melody in some form, which unlike a certain other franchise, people don't seem to mind it that much. Speaking of overused elements of the Kirby franchise that people don't seem to mind, Wispy Woods. Wispy is a boss that essentially appears in every game ever made. He even appears outside of Kirby games, that's how common he is. I'm pretty sure no one has ever had a problem with Wispy. His design is inspired, but also generic enough in the fact that he's a tree. His attack patterns are, get this, dropping apples and blowing wind. All the bosses in this game are pretty similar. Most of their patterns are basic and easy to avoid, but they do get harder as the game goes on. My personal favorite is Kracko, who's been a personal favorite Kirby character besides, you know, for about as long as I can remember. Similar to Wispy, his design has elements, but it's still easy to understand. He's clad with an eyeball, what else is there to it? Now I mentioned the attack patterns are basic on bosses, but the main reason for that has to be that Kirby can't do anything. Get this, he can jump and inhale. No copy abilities, no slide, that's it. Basically, battles in this game boil down to inhaling a projectile the boss sends out and sending it right back at it. That's not to say the combat isn't bad. In fact, I actually like the challenge of having no copy abilities. It gives a good reason to come back to this game for me. It's short, simple, and different enough to engage me. That being said, there are copy ability replacements of sort that grant Kirby temporary power that replaces his inhale. There's the microphone, which lets Kirby spit flames, and the super spicy curry, which lets Kirby spit actual flames. The mint leaf, which gives Kirby projectiles while in flight, bombs, and the invincibility candy, which grants Kirby the ability to make sandwiches at rapid speed. Nah, it gives you invincibility. There's nothing all too special about these power-ups, but the mint leaf is used to defeat Kabula, the Float Island's main boss, which is a blimp with cannons. It plays like a shoot-'em-up, which is pretty cool. There are even hidden secrets throughout the levels. I even managed to find one in Bubbly Clouds that took me straight to Kracko Jr., the stage's mini-boss. You may notice throughout the series that Kirby can randomly enter back background elements that are out of place, which may seem unfair and stupid, but sure, I can see. But I've always been a big fan of secrets like these, and once you know these secrets exist, the game becomes a Where's Wally game of finding these hidden doors and looking in places you won't usually look. After collecting all the sparkling stars from the bosses, Kirby makes it to Mount DDD. It's time to finally set the score with DDD, and to take on the ultimate final challenge. It's a boss rush. Yeah, it's kinda lame, but afterwards they have to take on the man, Penguin himself. DDD is the best boss in this entire game. Multiple attacks, small opportunities to attack, hard reads. After Kirby takes down DDD, he uses the power of the sparkling stars to send the castle into the sky, and drop the food down for the citizens to eat, I guess. With one final bye-bye, Kirby's Dreamland has an extra harder mode to complete after the first one. All the enemies are changed to ones with extra hard attack cycles and patterns. Waddle Dees are hyper, Gordos take 2 health from your maximum health of 6, and the bosses, well, the bosses are on steroids. Aggressive, fast, powerful, all of it. Even Wispy Woods serves as a challenge, and DDD is insane. He's so much quicker that you essentially have to ingrain the telegraphs of his attacks into your brain. It's a great reward for the initial, relatively easy playthrough. After beating DDD again, an extra roll call is added to the credits like in Super Mario World. Every enemy in the game is here, even Boomer. And that's Kirby's Dreamland. Sure, it's basic, but I think it serves its place as a great beginning to the Kirby series. Ha! I got through the entire video without making a single joke about Kirby sucking. Man, the people who make those kinds of jokes really suck, don't they? Damn it.